Excellent. I want to just go a bit deeper into split brain and data inconsistency. Can you break down what does that mean in practical terms and why multi-availability zones alone don't protect against them?
So a split brain, in simplest terms, is when you have two systems, one meant to be active, one meant to be standby, but both systems say they are active. Um, Now, obviously, I'm going to continue using my database analogy here. Obviously, if both systems are saying they're active, clients are still only connecting to one of those databases. Only one of those databases will have up-to-date data, and by both saying that they're the active copy, that they're the source of that, um, there's the potential for data to not get copied from one system to another. Neither is in the role of accepting incoming replicated data. Um, and so knowing what a split brain is, um, you don't really gain any protection to that by using a multi-availability zone or a multi-region deployment, simply because that operates on the application level. If there's an issue communicating between regions, if there's an issue replicating between regions, or if anything were to happen where one region cannot communicate, or I'm sorry, if there's ever an issue where one system in the first region can't communicate with its peer system in another region, then there's that possibility for both systems to try to operate as the source, and they're then competing to provide availability rather than working together, and the result being um, inconsistent data, difficulty figuring out which copy is the quote unquote good copy that you want to continue operating with once that situation is resolved. And then the other leg of that you asked about was the data consistency between regions. Um, and anytime you're working with a business application and you're managing customer data or managing business critical data, you always want to be running with that most current copy of data. When you introduce replication of data from one site to another, there's obviously concerns about how long it takes to copy that data from one site to another. There's also the concern of how current is the remote site. Did node 1 get writes 1, 2, and 3, and node 2 only get write 1? You know, um, when you spread applications out across regions, you aren't really mitigating the factors that can contribute to data inconsistency. The time it takes to write data increases a little bit as latency increases as things are geographically spaced. And the communication, the relay of data from one system to another still has to occur, and synchronicity still has to be achieved, regardless of how far apart or which regions the applications are running upon. So you aren't really gaining any mechanisms that aid in providing data consistency when using a multi-availability zone or a multi-region deployment, but you are gaining the peace of mind and the risk reduction, knowing that if there were ever an issue in one of those regions, if there were a fire in a data center, or if something terrible were to happen, a natural disaster, the services, the infrastructure in the other region would not be impacted. And so you do gain a little bit of availability that way, or a little bit of resilience that way, but you still have to make sure that everything is getting copied from one region to another before you're able to really rely on that as a risk reduction measure.